Drug dealers are benefiting from the UK supply shortage of ADHD medication, offering a month's worth of these controlled drugs for nearly £200.
The government has abjectly failed.
Trying to do this for the past 4 weeks without any sort of support and medication and stuff has been horrific.
Really scary of thinking of going back to how bad things got before.
I'm currently going through ADHD medication withdrawal. Feeling really nauseous, I've been sick, I've had a massive headache. So that was me a few days ago, but since then I've managed to get 16 Elvans capsules from a pharmacist. But from now, the countdown is on until I'll inevitably have to go into withdrawal again. I was told I wouldn't be able to see my ADHD clinician until next year at the earliest. So that means that switching to a new medication has become impossible in the meantime. This is everything I've got left, really. Which has meant that I've had to go into lower dosages, tried rationing my medication, to eventually going on to nothing at all. And I'm not alone in this. Due to increased global demand and manufacturing supply issues, ADHD UK estimates that 92% of those who have prescribed ADHD medication have been affected by this shortage, and 44% say they're concerned that they might lose their job.
It's sort of the fear of going back to how it was.
This is Ellie Middleton. She's a neurodiversity advocate and author, and for her, taking ADHD medication has been life-changing.
A lot of people like myself are rationing it and taking it less frequently than we're supposed to, but I don't know if that's a safe thing to do. You know, we've never been really advised if that's an okay thing to do, if it's okay to just take it a couple of days a week, or if that's, you know, going to absolutely throw our bodies, the fact that we're used to taking this medication 5 days a week and then it's just like, I don't know, 2 days off and then 1 day on and then a bit all over the place.
And how do you feel knowing that it's going to run out?
I think for a lot of people, like women and people of colour and people marginalised for their gender especially, so many of us are so newly diagnosed as well. So it's like we've spent such a long amount of time unmedicated and undiagnosed, having really like rough times. Like I really struggled with my mental health. I like dropped out of school, had to quit jobs. Like when I was undiagnosed and unmedicated, I have been through really, really rough times. And then it's like you finally find something that kind of helps with that and makes it a lot better and stops you reaching those crisis points. So then to know that that's at risk of being taken away, it's sort of, really scary of thinking of going back to how bad things got before.
And for others, they've resorted to the black market. You see, the other day when I was scrolling through social media, I started to see people looking for plugs for ADHD medication. Within a matter of moments, I was on Telegram speaking with a drug dealer who was offering me a month's supply of my prescription for £200. Now, through an NHS pharmacist, I would pay £9.65 for that. And the more I scrolled, the more accounts I found that were offering me my ADHD medication for £200. So I reached out to one of these drug dealers to ask if they'd noticed a rise in the number of people looking for ADHD medication since October, which is when the supply shortage began. To which they said, a rise. I've not noticed though, because I always receive complaints of shortages. I asked them if anyone had told them that there was a supply shortage of ADHD medication in the UK right now, to which they responded, yes, I've heard it countless times from my customers. It is very hard for them to buy it. So this is my ADHD medication. As you can see, it looks almost identical to the photos from those dealers. £200 for a month's supply is a lot of money, but with 90% of people being impacted by this shortage, surely some are willing to pay the price.
Just to get 6 weeks worth of a solution for £300 is extortionate in the grand schemes of life. And that's the sad balance that everybody with ADHD around the country and the world has to put up with.
For business owner Rob Curtis, going unmedicated has been such a struggle that he's had to spend £300 on 6 weeks worth of his ADHD medication to be imported from the USA.
Have you seen your life transformed by taking ADHD medication?
It's been a game changer for me. Not to feel like I've out with superpowers, but just for me internally, I've actually been able to live life, and even just trying to concentrate, not just with work and stuff, but with my family. So I've got 2 daughters, they're 14 and 9, and I can sit and have a conversation with them rather than having a half conversation with them because I've got 35 different things running through my head.
If you're spending £300 for 6 weeks worth of medication, do you think that's going to be affordable, sustainable for you?
I think it's one of those things where I have to make it work because I like I said earlier, it's the difference in me and how I operate, how I think, how I feel, all of those things. And anybody with ADHD knows this, or is certainly learning about it from themselves, is that it's not just one part of your life it affects, it is everything. It is everything you touch, feel, act and do. And I have to find a way to do it. I've realised that, and trying to do this for the past 4 weeks without any sort of support and medication and stuff has been horrific.
But what's even more concerning than the price is the fact that these drugs were so easily offered to me.
The ease at which I was offered these drugs is in direct contrast to how I usually obtain them. For example, I had to have an ADHD assessment followed by several medical checks in order to start taking them. Then tri-monthly, I have weigh-ins and blood pressure checks. This is because types of ADHD medication are classed as controlled drugs, so they're under high levels of regulation and strict legal controls. This is due to the fact that they may be potentially addictive and dangerous if given in high quantities or to those with underlying health conditions. So I asked this dealer if they were aware of how dangerous it was to sell these drugs to people who hadn't undergone the correct medical checks. They informed me that Elvans are best taken with prescription, and all my customers so far took theirs with prescription. So we can't confirm that, and when asked if they had a medical background, they declined to answer. And they soon started to become extremely agitated with my questioning. These unsurprisingly inadequate answers told me all I needed to know. I went under an alias contacting these drug dealers. None of them asked me what prescription I take and what dosage I'm prescribed for. We also don't know if these medications have been cut with other drugs and if their dosages have been altered. ADHD UK estimates that these supply shortage problems may be ongoing until April 2024. So I spoke to Henry Shelford, their CEO, to find out what this will mean for people.
I mean, the government has abjectly failed. Like, in 90+% of people we surveyed, over 1,000 people were disappointed in the government's response. Like, it reacted, there were warning signs. It has no system for recognising those, and suddenly it's a national patient alert saying no medication. ADHD is a tough condition to live with, and it's very, very difficult, and the medication is life-changing for many. And so seeing those impacts and people talking about how it's impacting them was awful. We know how tough ADHD is, particularly from the statistics on suicide. We know that 1 in 10 men or boys with ADHD will at some point try and take their own life, and it's 1 in 4 women or girls with ADHD will at some point try and take their own life. And we did ask the question about what's the impact on the crisis in that regard. So have people experienced an increase in suicidal thoughts or new suicidal thoughts? That was around 1/3 of people. It's a huge number of people, just terrifying.